Ago. Ago.
Welcome to another edition of your on-air series for Heritage Month 2023. This program is on Citi FM and Citi TV and is brought to you by the National Lottery Authority. Today we're looking at the history of the Anlo, who are one of the main Evers within the ever larger ethnic group. My guest is a historian who's been writing. He's also been talking on these series, giving us very important histories throughout the month of March. Kweku Dakwankra is my guest. Kweku, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So this is very interesting. I'm an Ewe, and I'm inviting you to come and tell me about the history of Anglos. Every proper Ewe knows that at some point we were in Notsie, and we do know that King Agokoli was a very evil king, and we are all told how we had to leave Agokoli and come to settle here. We also know that we have cousins in Togo, and we have cousins in Benin, and we have cousins in Nigeria. So most of us will know this. But I just wanted to sort of start with that. Is Notsie the original place where Evers came from, or the story starts before then?
Yes, thank you very much. So the story, depending upon who is narrating it, and it's divided to a lot of groups. There are some traditionalist historians from the Ewe land who even trace it back to Israel.
Okay.
And they make a contentious argument that from some of their practices, just like the Gans, they also moved from Israel and came down through Egypt and finally settled in the Oyo Kingdom in Nigeria before finally the movement to Notsie. You see, and for some, the historian knew that sort of all the ethnic group trying to trace themselves back to Israel is what we call Hamitic theory. We try to have something to do. And this history is mostly underpinned by Christian religious thought. So an attempt to link up to Israel, just to be part of the Christian idea of people being the original members of the Jewish tribes. So that is where it's burdened from. But as a concrete historical evidence of people moving from Israel to come, these are all based on conjectures and also certain social and religious practices which are akin between some of these ethnic groups and then some of the practices and customs we see in the Bible. So that is where the connection is.
So you don't think the Hamitic theory is proven? It's more later attempts to sort of synchronize Christianity with the groups. But the more legitimate theory would be somewhere within the African sub-region.
That is it, because when we look at the history of the Jews themselves, the idea of Jews coming to Africa to live in Egypt for over 200 years into slavery is well explained in the Bible about the Jewish exodus and so on. So if there's anything at all, the contact between the Africans and the Europeans occurred in Egypt. That is where the convergence point is. So that one, it is without doubt that even the Bible is an ample evidence of that contact between the Israelis or the Jews and the Africans. And if you read the work by De Graaf Johnson, The Vanished History of the Negroes, he talks about the fact that these Jews came to Africa and they were around Tunisia, Morocco, moved all the way to Senegal area. So when you test the gene of Fulanis, they do have a lot of Jewish blood in them. And that explains the Fulani color of having that fair color, because there was a massive interaction between the Jewish migrants and then the Fulanis who were then around the North Africa there. So that was his argument. I think that argument holds a lot of water, because if you go and if you look at the physical structure of the Fulanis, you can see this.
See some traces.
Yeah, traces of that.
Yes. So from Anglo oral tradition, we hear of Ketu, a place in Nigeria as where they originally came from. Incidentally, if you go to my hometown, it's Ketu North.
Yeah.
And then if you come to Aflawa, it's Ketu South. And I do know there's a place in Nigeria still called Ketu.
Yeah.
So can we say the Anglos came from Ketu as their original starting point?
Yeah, so that is true. So before I get that for you, so the Ewes are only group who are in Nigeria among the Yoruba Owo group. And that Owo group is what we call the Badagry. That is the water area immediately after Seme border.
Okay.
You see that they are in the watering area before you enter into Lagos. Anyone who have traveled by land will know this. So those Badagry group or the Owo people, they speak a form of Ewe mixed with some Yoruba language. So immediately after that, you get the Fon people who are also Ewes in Old Dahomey, now Benin. Then you come to...
so this is Angelique
Joe's people. Yeah. Or Jimon
Honsu.
Yes, people. So from there, then you come straight to Togo. Then you get the Aja people there who are also always speaking. Then you get the Gen. Gen is a mixture of Mfanti, Ewe, and Gan. So they are there. Some books call them Mina people. They are also there. So some of the Ewes call them the Sebe people who speak Sebe from Parliament, Abadrafo.
So their language is like a mixture of Ewe, Gan, and Fanti. And they live in the coast of Togo. They are called Gan people.
Yes. So up to Greji, all those people speak this the Gan language. And then you come to Ghana, then the Ewes are here. And some are also in Togo. And the Ewes or the Ewe people. Ewe means people of the valley. People of the valley. So these Ewe people, that was the name that when they asked Chief Mlepo in Togo by the Germans, how do you people call yourself? We are called Ewe, meaning people of the valley. And so these Ewes in Ghana are also subdivided into the Anlo. Then you have the Tong, which are the reverend people. You see, the Anlo people are the people who have coiled themselves, okay? Or people who have stopped or moved.
Menglo. I have coiled. I'm tired, so I have sort of mamua, and I'm sleeping.
Yes.
Sort of
so
thing.
And then you have the Evedome people, who are the northern Ewe. So we have these three group making the total Ewe. So why the Ewe is the ethno-linguistic group, the sub-ethnic groups are the Anlo,
Evedome, and Tong. And if you look at it, the Anglo are south. Tong, you can say a bit in the middle.
Side, yeah.
And then the Vedome is all the way up to Hohwe before you get to the Oti region. I see. So is there any point at which they split up? What happened? How did they become those three groups?
So originally they were within Ketu, who was then Oyo Kingdom, one of the biggest kingdom. And then they moved from the Oyo and came to settle in a place also within Dahomey, which they also called Ketu. So if you watch the recent film by the Women Kings, we see an example of that spirit where the king has created his new Dahomey kingdom, and they were the vassal state of the Oyo, and they have to come and fight them. Anyone who has not watched that film can, or anyone who has also watched it will see the example I'm giving. So at Ketu, they decided to move, and when they moved, the group split into two. So one went to River Mono area. The Mono area, they settled there. And some other group also moved to River Ahau and Mono area, and then they also settled there. Within that place, that is when those who were within the Ahau area were also a group that will later become the Anlo, the Be, and the Fon. And out of it, one moved to Tado, one of the group moved to settle at Tado, and another group moved to settle at Ketu. So within this movement, one of the elders of the group that will become Anlo, led by their head called Be, and his son Gamedra, and then their grandson will be Tobe Wenya.
Wenya.
Tobe Wenya. So Tobe Wenya and his group
so Togbe, his son Gemedra, and his grandson Wenya.
Came to settle at Notsie. So while there, his sister went to marry the king of Tado, which is Ashimedi, Aja Ashimedi. So that is where he went to marry. And out of that marriage came an issue of a child called Penny. And Penny will later be called Sri.
Sri. Or Sri.
Which means to respect in every language. So while the Wenya was with in Agokoli's kingdom of Notsie, his nephew Penny or Sri came to visit, and when he was coming, he brought the throne of Ashimedi, which was called Chipe. That is the Chipe. The rain.
Is water, is stone.
Yes, so it's the rain stone. Okay. And it is believed that this tool has a power of making rains. When there's no rains, it can be called upon, and then the rain will fall. So he brought this tool and came and settled among the people who were at Notsie, and the group were called Dogbeawo. Dogbeawo group.
So you said Siri means respect. So it's from the word Suroda. So if they say, you know, if they say Suroda, it means to respect or to honor. So if they say Suromauda, and I think that Suroda is where they sort of shorten it to make it Siri.
Siri.
So, because if you ask somebody what Siri means, they may not know, but that's the original word. Anyway, go on.
So when they came there, at first they were living all right under the first Agokoli. Then the new one that came, there were a lot of skirmishes, fighting for rights and what have you, between the original inhabitants of the Notsie and then these new Arabians called the Dogbeawo. Within this contestation, it led to enmity between them, and Agokoli decided to support its own. But prior to this enmity, there was a cordiality among them, and it was during this cordial period that even Agokoli will install or install Sri as the chief or the head of the people, with Wenya as an old man who was supporting them within that kingdom.
This is the Heritage Month on Air series. My guest, Kukuda Kankra. We're talking about the Anlo, but we're sort of tracing the history of Ewe generally, making reference to the 4 countries that they are found: Nigeria, Togo, Benin, Ghana. Now we are sort of narrowing down to the role of Notsie, because we started from Ketu as well. We'll narrow it down to how the Anlo came to settle and how they even got to places like Keta, Tegbi, Way, and all those places within the larger Anlo group. This is the On Air series. We'll be right back.
Ago. Ago.
Welcome back. This is our On Air series, Heritage Month. Today we're looking at the Anlo group. My guest, Kukuda Kankra, walking us through the history of the Anlo group. So you've spoken about the, what do you call it, Sri, and then you've spoken about Wenya being an elder. You've spoken also about Agokoli and Notsie. So you still haven't told us the separation in terms of the various groups. But let's continue. So after this, Sri was given this stool, the Chipe as you call it, what happened? How did they eventually come to where they live in the southern part of the Volta region now?
Very good. So this enmity caused that arise between the original inhabitant and the brothers that have joined them, the Dogbeawo, will escalate into such a stage that there was a time there was a cause of death, which was apparently committed by the Dogbeawo, but they made it look like one of the original inhabitants caused it. And this death, apparently, when Agokoli found out, he started to punish the Ewe. And that is why they say the wicked Agokoli. So he made them build even some of the houses with thorns, that is, testers in it. And the people were being punished. So the hunter warriors among them, including Chachu Adelaja, Amesimeku Atoglo, Apromeda, Sri, and then one Eche Charlie, who came together and they decided to explore the area in what is currently the southwestern Ghana to look for a new place for their people to settle. So
these are hunters who were fed up with the Agokoli's punishment and decided to look for a new settlement. So we are talking of Chachu Adelaja, Mesimeku Atoglo, Akpolomada Siri, and Eche Chadia Charlie. These are the four.
These are the four.
Wonderful. So they find this place in southeastern Ghana. What do they do next?
So when they found all this area, they came and told their elder Wenya. So when they informed Wenya, the people decided to form a very complex strategy. And the strategy was that when they are moving, they will walk backwards with their legs showing as if they are now coming in. So while they were moving, they will be moving backward with their back. And then their face will be showing Notsie. So when you see the step, you think the people are coming in.
So you think this is a path of somebody who came?
Who came
so
in.
You don't know that these guys had left.
So this is how they moved out of Notsie. And when they were moving, they got separated into three.
Okay.
One group moved out to the northern part of what is today Northern Volta region. David Domenov, Alavanyo, Ketu, Peki.
So you're talking about Peki, Awudome, and also Alavanyo.
Alavanyo area.
That's the first group.
Very good. Okay. And then another group also moved to the central, Adakru, Ho, and the others, Abutia, and those areas.
Okay.
They also went there. And then the other group take southwestern path, trajectory, and they were led by Wenya and Sri. So these two groups, when they were coming, Wenya was so old that he was carried by two twins, okay, Echo Achu and then Eche Baje. The two of them carried the old man, and they moved all the way till they reached the northern shore of the Keta Lagoon at a place they called Evetoku, which is now Atiteti near Apipe. So that is where
Atiteti near Apipe.
You are surprised I'm saying it right.
No, you're not saying it right. It's Apipe. It's like you are whistling. It's not Apipe.
That one you need some sort of okro to help.
Yeah. So you're talking of the southern group. So Keta, Tegbi, Way, and that group. So you have the northern parts, which is the Peki and Hohwe.
Yeah.
Then you have the middle part, Ho, and then the southern parts, Tegbi, Ho, Hohwe. Sorry, Tegbi. What do you call it? Angloga and Way on the shore.
Yeah.
So this is the group which was led by Wenya.
Wenya and Sri.
Wonderful.
So when they reach there, then the old man, Wenya, and his people take the southwest move, passing through the creek, all the way moving until they hit the shore. And when they hit the shore, the old man exclaimed, I have now seen the sand, which in a way, if you can help me with the translation there, then the place was named Keji. That is the place where...
So it says we have arrived at the Samido Keji. We have arrived on top. We have arrived where the sun is. So Keji. So that's Keji.
Yeah, so that's the first place he settled.
Okay.
When they settled there for some time, then he saw the beautiful nature of the beach. And then they saw a sandbar, which is in between the Atlantic Ocean and the Keta Lagoon. Okay. So they decided to move further west. So in their movement, they went and see a beautiful picturesque area, which the old man loved it. And he said that now he has seen the top of the sandbar.
I have seen the head of the sandbar. So the first one, it says, we've reached sand. So that's Keji. And then it says, I've now seen the head of the sand. That's Keta.
Yes, so when you reach there, that is how the Keta name came about.
Okay.
And from there, he moved on. After some time, he moved on, then he found Way, Toby, until he reached Anlo. Then he said, Melon. The old man protested. Menguno, which means he has coiled.
I'm tired. So it's an expression. Menguno, I'm tired. I'm reclining or I'm coiling. So that's how the Anglo name
came about. Okay. And that place, the big one that developed became Angloga, which is that is the big
main Anglo.
And then became the head of the community. So whilst there, we can say from there to immediately after his own, Sri and his group also make move from where they were from the north, and they also move all the way until they reach Koji, which is the first town that Sri also founded. And then from there he went on to go and found Fiaho, which is the chief's hut. So whilst at these places, when he invited his nephew to come to Anwaga, and then he came and settled with him. So that is why when we talk about the proper Anlo, that is Anlo Akwaku, we are talking about Koji, Tebi, Wei, Keta, and Anwaga. Those are the 5 major.
So that's the core
Anlo group.
Keta, Tegbi, Wei, Koji, and Angloga.
5 of them.
I see. So and they are on the same line, actually.
Yeah, they are on the same line. So when they arrived, they then discovered that they have left the Chipe stool back in Notsie. So they decided that they're supposed to go back. But Adelaja's son, okay, who is Free Abeve, who instead of leading to go back and go and take the stool, refused to go. So as a result, a committee was formed to come together to go back to Agokoli's place to go and pick the stool. Because when they arrived, the land itself does not have a lot of resources. More so, when they were farming, there was no rain. The rains were also not available. So they have this tool that have rain-making prowess. So it's then dawned on them that their survival is also hinged on the availability of that stool. So for this reason, this meeting was called. And when it was called, 2 hunter warriors emerged, Amesimeku Atoglu and then Chachu Adalaja. So these 2 decided to go. At that time, the Wenya and Sri's clan were Adovia clan, who originally were ruling. But the new guy, Adalaja, who was also the hunter warrior with Amesimeku, Adalaja's clan was Bate.
The Bate clan.
The Bate clan. And then Amesimeku's clan was Like clan.
The Like clan.
The Like clan. So the 2 of them decided to go to Notsie to go and bring the stool. When they went back, Agokoli told them that Sri was a very stubborn person who has moved away from him unceremoniously. So he need the head of Sri before he will give them back the stool. So when they were told, they came back and then they put the issue of Agokoli's demand. But then when they realized that Sri suffered from yaws, some sickness that has make the hand yellowish. So they saw that among them, one person called Foley, who is a member of Gamale. Gamale's Lifeme clan also had that ailment too. So they decided, unbeknownst to Foley, they took him along. And when on the verge of getting to Notsie, they killed him. And Amesimeku Atoglu killed him. And then they chopped off his hand. And when they went to...
and they misrepresented that to be the body
of Sri. So when they went back to Notsie, they showed it. And then he said, where is the body? He said, no, it's too old.
So this is a piece of it.
Piece of him. And then he agreed upon that, and then they brought.
So he gave the stool to Adelaja
and Amesimeku. But because of in chieftaincy in African society, a person who ought to be a member of it, you are not to be seen with too much blood or negative sort of what we call malignant spirits following you, because Amesimeku Atoglu killed Foley, he was not added to the line. So Chachu Adalaja, who helped to bring the stool, when Sri was dying, he added him as part of the rulers. And that is why Anlo land had these 2 major ruling houses. That is the Ajovia and the Bate clan.
Wow. So this is how we got the main ruling clans within the Anlo group. I see. That's quite fascinating. I'm sure there are other things we can talk about, but for today's episode, we can end it here. On another episode, we'll talk about one of the historical landmarks within the Anlo area, which is Fort Prisenstein. And I'm sure you can then fill in some of the gaps around the Anlo and Keta, how initially they were not on the same terms before they came together. So thank you, Kukuda Kwankra. This is a very short history of the Anlo. We'll continue the discussion on a different program where we would use a landmark to bring you some insightful discussions. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the On Air series on the Heritage Month. Thank you.